Sorry. Still Dance from Weird Al.
We're just going to go with that.
Okay, let's do it.
That's not that.
Hey!
That's us.
Oh, wait a minute. Is that what happens when Drossel and... Drossel gives birth to Iron Man?
Why, yes. Yes, it is. Everybody, and welcome to From My Mother's Basement, the show that celebrates being a geek. I'm Jason.
And I am Michael.
Apologize for the late start, but we had to get some technical issues out of the way so we can bring our comic guru on this time around.
Yes, because first off, next week is Comic-Con. Comic-Con is upon us. Yeah. So the world is about to explode, all things comics, and whatever crap Hollywood's pushing this year.
Which,
well, yeah, you know, having been to Comic-Con and WonderCon, I will go to WonderCon going forward.
Okay.
It's so much more fun.
Okay, I can imagine that. I already said I want to go to...
Apple putting their stamp on Stark. Nice.
Yeah, I definitely want to hit up WonderCon. Comic-Con's just... Yeah.
Yeah, it's way Hollywood. It's also really hard to get tickets, but that's beside the point. So we have a guest with us today. As well as Comic-Con, there was a lot of really cool comic announcements this week, and a couple what-the-hell comic announcements this week. And to discuss them, we brought a friend of the show... You guys have seen her before. Nikki! Hi, Nikki!
Hey!
Sweet. It's been too long. Need you to have back on the show.
Yeah, your show tends to run right up on my bedtime.
Ah,
so,
good point.
Yeah. But I don't mind coming on once in a while.
Cool. Ooh, 3-shot. Technology. No.
Spiffy.
Besides, Michael and I can only speculate and have our horrible guesses about what's going on in the comic industry. You actually work at a comic shop, so you know a hell of a lot more than we do.
You work at a comic shop that has connections in the industry, so...
Oh, good. Yeah. Very true.
You get this information.
Sometimes, yes.
Oh,
okay. Well, yesterday they had a signing of the artists for Transformers.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're good enough to get people who do stuff.
Good times.
All right. Anyway, where do you want to start?
Let's talk Marvel, shall we?
Oh God, there's enough going on with Marvel. Yeah.
Where do we really want to start? You know what? Why don't we start with Avengers now?
Let's do that.
This whole thing that I just look at this and I'm going, okay, the new 52 wasn't obviously enough. They're pushing this whole, Marvel Now, which is yet another wave of relaunches. Oh my God,
Doctor Strange looked like a derpy biker.
Yeah. He looks like a reject from Stars.
He looks like he walked off the set of Venture Brothers to me. But,
Yeah.
Is that Deathlock?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's the newest Disney princess.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Nikki, what the hell's going on with this?
Well, they haven't released too much about it yet, but in the front you can see that a lot of the speculation's been blown out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
When they announced the female Thor, almost instantly everybody said, "I bet you it's going to be Angela." And obviously from this lineup we can see that's not going to happen. We can talk a little bit more about that later. The interesting thing, the thing that's got a lot of people kind of up in arms, is the Falcon stepping in as Captain America.
Yeah.
Now, the way they're spinning that is the super serum wore off on Cap, and he's going to start aging rapidly. Now, nobody really cares that it's the Falcon taking over, except for a couple of things. First of all, he's a very strong character on his own.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't need to step into Cap's shoes. He wasn't, a lot of people say that if you were going to do this, Winter Soldier, Bucky taking the shield back, it's something he's done before. A lot of people are upset because it's been less than 10 years since the last time they, took Rogers out of his uniform and gave it to somebody else.
Right.
There's been mixed results for it.
Mm-hmm.
But also there was recently the big blow up on the purported rape between Falcon and another character in the Captain America universe. Now, I know I sent you some links on that, and they did a whole hashtag activism, fire the writer and everything else.
Talk
But
about this one right here.
Yes. Now, when it all said and done, and you actually look at what happened, yeah, it's going to destroy a lot of people's view of Falcon and whatnot. But first of all, I've only seen a few panels from this. I haven't read the issue yet. He didn't rape her. As a matter of fact, he was only interested in one glass of wine. He didn't want more. He wasn't pushing himself on her. And even in the morning after scene, he's like, oh my God, what happened? And she's like, oh, it was great. Don't worry about it. We should do it again sometime. Now, the controversy about this and why people are a little bit upset is the math on her age. A lot of people thought she was 16 or 17. And when you look at the way she's dressing and look at the way she's drawn, that's not how I would expect somebody in their teens to appear.
Mm-hmm. I'd say she looks like she's cosplaying Lilu Dallas. I mean, it's...
Exactly.
Where's her multi-pass?
And even in that frame, she mentions, for my 23rd birthday, I've had this wine. So there's a lot of people that are still riled up about the whole, supposed rape that really don't want to see him as Captain America because now he's flawed. Mm-hmm. Oh, go ahead.
No, it's the idea that, okay, this completely undermines everything I had heard about this. Everything I had heard coming up to this was, Falcon raped some chick, blah, 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 blah. And this sounds to me like another case, and we've seen it in comics, we've seen it in movies, we've seen it everywhere, where a little bit gets out about an uncomfortable thing, in this case, an uncomfortable sexual encounter, and all of a sudden it's rape, and it's the rape culture. It's like, Jesus freaking Christ, get over yourself, people.
Not to mention...
Because this is not rape. Okay, at the worst, she got him drunk. Okay? Which is kind of a flip on the stereotype anyway. Mm-hmm. Now, it's possible that once everything blew up, they went back and rewrote it. I suppose that's possible.
Come on, let's retcon everything. It's happened before in the past. But I also look at it this way. They, like you said in that scene, it mentions about the fact that with her 23rd birthday, and she really doesn't look that old. Need I remind you that this is not the first time this has happened in any animated form. Let's look at anime real quick. Let's look at Yoko from Gurren Lagann. How she looks all disproportionate.
Yeah, she's supposed to be like 15.
She's 14
in the start of the show.
In the start of the show.
Yeah, yeah. And she's built like a 24-year-old. Yeah,
exactly.
And dressed accordingly. Yeah.
So it's just,
but you're doing cultural differences there, though. I mean, you're talking American culture versus Japanese culture. Not that I'm sanctioning scantily clad 14-year-olds. Okay. I'm just saying.
Is this the Michael needs to retract everything he said?
No, this is comparing. For example, comparing Yoko to whoever that girl was. Mm-hmm. Radical cultural differences.
Okay.
What's accepted in Japanese culture and anime, which is in and of itself conflicted, especially with the one thing that happened with the artist that got arrested for obscenity. It's not a very good comparison to make, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it sparks to me of like people who are the people who are completely pissed off about oh my God, the thing with Cosmos, when all these people were pissed off that they were going to talk about evolution and how it had to be wrong because or evolution versus creationism, and it was like, no, they hadn't, they were condemning it sight unseen, and that's what this whole rape controversy with Falcon sounds like to me.
Okay.
Somebody heard a couple things out of context, and
things happen.
Well, the girl that really, and I'm sorry to say it was a girl that started the whole explosion. She is purported to be a huge Captain America fan and knows so much about the universe and everything else. But the fact of the matter is it really came down to age. And she apparently missed some stuff in the calculation of her math. The girl in question grew up in another dimension where time moves differently. So yes, at one point, her and her brother were 9, and suddenly, now she's 23, whereas if you're doing the math in Earth years, blah, 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 she would have only been like 17. The fact of the matter is this is still an underage girl, even if it was as the girl wrote it, as this, this young lady exploded the Twitterverse, as it were. Even if she had, if there hadn't been another dimension involved and the girl had been underage, this wasn't like he got her drunk and took advantage of her. As a matter of fact, he's being very upright in this panel right here, where he's like, one glass is enough for me. I don't need to get plastered.
Right.
And she's the one pushing more alcohol on him. And this comes into a lot of, and I don't want to go into a huge explosion about this because I unfortunately could go on for hours about this sort of thing. The whole blame the victim, or the whole, and it's going to tie in a little bit, cosplay as consent. It's a big.
I was waiting for that to hit.
Yeah, and I'm not really going to go there. I'm going to leave that alone.
Thank you.
My friends know my opinion, and that's enough. If you look at the way she's dressed, and she's forcing alcohol on him, and she's getting him drunk, even if something did happen and she was underage, this is not him going out with the intent to rape her. This is really her pushing herself on him. It still wouldn't be right. It still would have been a horrible thing that happened, but it wouldn't be, oh my God, Falcon is completely inappropriate as Captain America. He shouldn't even be Captain America's sidekick. He's, this black man that just raped this underage white chick. Not the case whatsoever.
Yeah, it radically changes the intent at that point. And that's what I think it comes down to, is intent.
Exactly. And there was, unfortunately, I work at a very small comic shop. There are only currently 4 of us total that work there. And our owner, George, he did do flatting in the industry, so he has a lot of industry contacts. And a lot of creators even, and a lot of writers and artists have so much conflict and anger about this issue that a lot of people have lost friendships and severed business contacts over their opinions for this one specific issue, and what's insinuated versus what happened and what the intent was, and this writer should be fired and blacklisted and never ever allowed to work in comics again. How dare he, bring up this rape culture thing. So it's something very small. And when you stand back and look at it, it's not, I won't say it's not a big deal, because obviously something happened that both sides weren't really, wanting in the end. But we've become so sensitive, and I think this spreads beyond comics in general, but just so sensitive to rape, gender, equality, not treating women as objects. Like, the whole thing has just gotten so crazy that if somebody reads a comic wrong, there is a Twitter hack division, or whatever you call it.
Activism,
yeah.
There you go. This whole movement to ruin people's lives and careers over misunderstandings or differences in opinions.
Yeah,
because it's perfectly okay for you not to agree with what he wrote and think, I don't really think this was necessary. It didn't need to be there. But that doesn't, just stop buying the comic. Or if this writer gets put on another series, just don't buy that series. There's no reason to say that somebody's life should be over for disagreeing with your opinions.
Yeah, because they started this whole Twitter, this hashtag of Fire Rick Remender. And I'm like, This makes no sense. If you have a problem, if you want to protest on it, instead of trying to do the simple 12-year-old thing and bitch and complain online, because no one has a filter online, apparently.
This chick, I'm sorry, if it weren't for the fact she's got boobs, I'd assume it was a throat beard. It's that type of argument.
Yeah.
It's like the arguments I've had that I've unfortunately had with throat beards of any genre. And God,
if you want to protest against something, protest with your wallet. Don't, like Nikki said, don't buy the comic. Don't go online and act like, oh my God, this is worse than Hitler, which is apparently everybody.
God, unfortunately, they haven't given the Godwin argument yet, but which is the Hitler argument. But and even all of that aside, you still ignoring that I'm still not really a big fan of the idea of Falcon taking over Captain America, and it has nothing to do with this whole controversy. It's what Nikki said earlier. He's a strong enough character. He had his own freaking title for a while.
Yep.
You don't need to put him in the cap suit.
I still find it hilarious, though, that with him picking up the shield, you would think then he would, put down the wings. He's not. He's keeping them.
And he's still wearing the goggles, It's Captain Black Bald Eagle. It's
like, I'm half expecting for the if we want to really go down that path, be like, hey, look, the shield, it spins now. No.
No, he's not going to blink the shield.
No, he won't.
That would be pretty damn funny, though.
Now, moving on to the other characters, I completely agree. When I read it, and I'm like, oh, well, that's a very interesting take on his uniform. And then they're like, oh, now with wings. I'm like,
so he's a tampon. Oh, he's got wings. Sorry.
So, yeah, I was like, well, now we're getting a little silly. This is almost like Gurren Lagann, and we just keep stacking parts on until he's bigger than the galaxy. And I'm like,
I like that. That was well done.
Well tied, Nikki. Well tied.
But the next one that everybody's kind of like, oh, great, is Iron Man. He has the new white and blue suit, which is very Apple of him.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because he is actually picking up and moving his base of operations to San Francisco coming up. And that puts him in Apple's neighborhood. So, yeah, this might be the special Apple promo of the Iron Man suit.
Mm-hmm.
But they're rewriting him, and he's going to be, if I remember correctly, Ultimate Iron Man. Which, putting that name on the front of a character has not worked well for anybody that they've done it for so far.
Oh, you mean Superior, right?
Oh, there we go, Superior. Yeah. Sorry, the Superior, Ultimate.
Yeah, they're all
they
different
just
things
keep
out there.
Slapping adjectives.
Every one of the X titles they threw that on flopped.
The last major title that they attempted to do this with was the Superior Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't go so well. That's when Doc Ock took over Peter Parker's body and let Peter Parker die in his cancerous, rotting corpse. And that caused so much rage, and sales plummeted, and it was a bad move.
It really was.
So, yeah, nobody they've ever slapped the Superior title on has had good luck with that. So, I don't know if you can, pardon my language, make a bigger dick of Tony Stark, but that's essentially what Superior means. Now,
that's what
dickier.
They're really trying. Yeah, I mean, Marvel's editor-in-chief Axel Alonso stated in an interview that, like Superior Spider-Man, Superior Iron Man is a character that's hard to root for. He has some very ambitious plans for the city that some of its residents embrace, but not all. If I remember correctly, reading this, he basically gives extremis available via a download, so that everyone in San Francisco can control anything and everything with a thought.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, this is going to be...
I hadn't read that part yet. Yeah. But here's the thing, is this might lead up to additional conflict, because there's another Marvel character that was not too long ago moved to San Francisco from East Coast, and that would be Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it doesn't sound like something that Daredevil would roll with, so I'm wondering if this is going to lead to a conflict of personalities there. Now, Tony Stark was once on the West Coast. Back in the 90s, they did the West Coast Avengers. And at one point when they ended the West Coast Avengers, it was to roll out a new team under Tony Stark called ForceWorks.
That was just in time for Marvel Civil War, wasn't it?
I believe so. It was about that time frame. So he's already been on this coast, and apparently that didn't work so well, because the next thing I knew, he's back on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't know what they're doing here, but it seems a little weird to arbitrarily start moving people to the West Coast, unless it's because they're moving their headquarters out here. And
the only thing I could possibly think of why they're doing this is because in the cinematic universe, Avengers headquarters, by Tony Stark, they're staying in New York. They're staying on East Coast. I'm wondering if this move to San Fran is a way to try to separate even further the cinematic universe from the comic universe.
Maybe, but it's my understanding. Well, we'll find out if the next Thor movie has a female Thor.
Yeah.
But I've actually heard they're trying to tie him closer. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know.
But now that we've talked about Avengers now, scrolling along the further in the front there, it's kind of hard to not notice that Thor's changed a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
And it's not moving to San Francisco and getting a sex change.
Now, from the more detail that I've managed to pick up, they're really not saying a whole lot more about it.
Uh-huh.
But the way that they're rolling this out, and there's some flaws with it, which we'll get to in a second, is Thor is not the name of a person specifically. It is basically the title bestowed upon whoever wields the hammer.
Right.
So they were very specific. I find this hilarious that they pandered to their market. They did so amazingly well. They debuted this on The View, which is an all-female talk show.
I laugh.
Which is where everybody goes for comic news.
But you know what? Here's the thing. If you want to get the jump and you want to market to the female audience, that was extremely intelligent.
Yes,
because
it was a
even
smart
if your
marketing move.
mom sees this and is like, well, I don't read comics, this means nothing, that doesn't mean that she's not going to see her niece who's like, I love the Avengers movies, and then be like, you know what? There's a comic for you. Let's go to the shop. It's
all marketing.
It was incredibly intelligent, because if you wanted to expand your market share and you wanted to get it out to the most girls possible, that would be the easiest way. Mm-hmm. Because even if the younger girls don't watch The View, which most younger girls don't, this got it out to every grandmother, mother, and aunt out there. So
True.
If the kids didn't hear it on MTV or Twitter or whatever it might be, their parents know about it. So, I mean, that was a really intelligent step. And it's true. It's not the first place I would go for comic book news either. So when I first heard it, before I stopped and actually thought about it, I was like, what? Why the hell would you do that? And then it started to make sense. It's incredibly intelligent.
And yet they still get the core male demographic because, let's be honest, she's badass. That character design, what they did with that, with her character design, she's not, Titana Tatas.
Right.
She's
strong, powerful,
strong form, strong, woman's got muscle. She's not a twig wielding the hammer. And just the overall design, and whoever the character designer was that came up with the concept on this knocked it out of the park in my mind.
Yeah. I do find interesting that there was a little update to this one. Marvel released an image later on, after everything subsided a little bit, of a so-called unworthy Thor, wielding an axe and what appears to be almost a prosthetic left arm.
It is a prosthetic left arm.
They did state it's prosthetic. Now, the way they're handling it, this isn't the first time. There was a comic, Thunderstrike, where it was Thor not wielding the hammer for a short time. And the way they're doing it is that whoever wields the hammer is Thor. It's I think the cutesy terminology is it's not she-Thor, it's not Thorita, it's Thor. Not Lady Thor, just Thor. That's it. End of sentence. So something is obviously going to happen that's going to cause him to lose his arm. Whatever that is may make him either physically or mentally incapable of wielding that hammer. Whether it's such a shatter to his ego or whatever the case might be, he's going to lose the hammer. Now, we do know that the lady that's going to take the hammer and wield it is somebody he has rescued before. So it is going to be somebody that we have seen in the universe once before. Even if it was just a one-shot, he saved her in a story arc, they talked for a panel or two, and she was on her way, this isn't going to be a complete unknown.
So
please don't make it Natalie Portman. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Natalie Portman, but
not
no.
her. That also kind of confirms it's not Lady Sif.
Yeah, no, definitely not Lady Sif. Lady Sif is a bad guy anyway.
Yeah, sure.
Now, where the plot holes come in. This isn't. We'll be talking a lot about plot holes today. This isn't the first time another character has grabbed this hammer, but it has not changed their title. The Hulk has wielded the hammer once. Mm-hmm. Captain America has wielded the hammer before. Mm-hmm. Other characters have picked up the hammer, but they were never referenced as being Thor. So there are a lot of people that are kind of like, I don't know about this. So I can roll with the explanation. I mean, I can understand the change and how they're going to try and write it in.
Right.
But it's kind of disjointed. But honestly, I don't think there's any comic where that's not going to happen. And there's another great example is on the DC side with the new Grayson title. Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Do we want to jump there? Do we want to cover? Or do we want to finish this up before we go to DC?
We'll finish up here first because DC. Let's face it.
Oh man. We have a website saying what stupid thing did DC do this week named after you. You know you're screwing up.
Yeah.
So we'll get to DC in a minute.
So honestly, I don't read Thor normally. Mm-hmm. I don't read Captain America, so I'm not as well versed in these particular titles to really give you an idea of where it might be going aside from what they've done on press releases. I can say I'm actually really happy with the new Thor outfit for the same reasons that Michael mentioned earlier, and I know I might offend some people out there when I say this, but I am so glad that they went with a practical outfit. I was really worried the moment I heard Lady Thor. I thought about the many, many female cosplayers who have decided to do a female version of whatever, and they come out in what's essentially a Red Sonja outfit. Yeah. I was expecting 2 discs connected by a chain on a halter, or some crazy outfit.
It's not tailor made for Jessica Nagiri. So.
Yeah.
No, this outfit actually makes sense. It's something that's not only protects her, but also allows her freedom of movement to actually fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking as someone who's made armor, that armor, the chest plate is extremely practical. It's got the protections built in. I would have put something over the shoulders personally, but it makes sense why they didn't. Mm-hmm. And you still keep the Thor aesthetic.
Yes.
I mean, it's overall well designed. That helmet is wow. Yes. It's badass at the same time, and I'm kind of dating myself here, and I think there's maybe one other person in the chat room who may recognize it when I say this. It reminds me of Phantom of the Paradise a little bit. It was Phantom of the Paradise was a movie made in the 70s when they were doing all these rock opera things. Mm-hmm. But the Phantom had a mask that looked a little bit like that. And it's cool. Don't get me wrong. It's really cool. I want to read it because I want to know. I'm going to pick it up not just because it's a Lady Thor, but because I want to know how they transition the story. I want to see how they handle the transition. How does he lose his arm? What makes him unworthy? Because him losing the hammer, like Nikki stated, has happened before. In the cinematic universe, it happened in the first movie. Mm-hmm. For the first half of the movie, he wasn't even able to lift the hammer, let alone wield it. So, although this time I don't think it's Anthony Hopkins or, punishing him.
Not that version of Odin. Okay.
Yeah. So, I'm looking forward to it. I want to read it. I have to admit, I'm pleased, and at the same time, there's a small part of me that's disappointed. I kind of wanted it to be Angela. Because they're having a hard time as enough selling me on the idea of them bringing Angela into the universe anyway.
Right.
Without mentioning Spawn, without mentioning, stupid demon character played by John Leguizamo.
The clown thing, yeah.
The clown, yeah.
Yeah.
Or any. I mean, they managed to do that without bringing any of the McFarlane baggage with them. So I was kind of hoping it'd be like, okay, this is a way they can definitely make her their own. But at the same time, Nikki and I were talking about it the other night. It kind of makes sense that it's not her at the same time. Okay. So I want to see how they handle the transition.
They're very much struggling to find her place in the universe. It was a major win when they got her. I mean, that was a huge win, not only for Neil Gaiman, but for fans of Angela that wanted to see something happen. Mm-hmm. The Spawn comic is coming to end of life. They're getting ready to end it once and for all. And honestly, I'm surprised it's gone as long as it has.
This may be bad of me to say, but I'm like, they're still making new Spawns? I thought it died years ago.
I thought it died alongside the movie.
I have to be honest, at our shop, and this may not be a representative of all shops, it may just be the Ventura area, I get maybe one person who asks for it on average every 6 months. So for us, it is not
a big seller.
No, we don't even order it. It's not even on our pull lists. But they tried cramming her in with the Guardians of the Galaxy for a short run.
Did Tony Stark try and bet her too?
Name one character he has not.
He's trying. No. He got Gamora, and that blew up in his face.
Oh yeah,
that was hilarious.
She was less than impressed. But Angela and Gamora get along very well. They have their own little interaction going, but that's pretty much it. There really wasn't any chemistry that you could feel with the rest of the team. She was out of place. Now, currently they're doing Original Sin, Original Sins, and all the various tie-ins. And this is where they're going to try and fit her with the universe of Thor and Loki and the parents and everything else. Right. The first one came out a couple weeks ago, and essentially the way they're spinning it is there was a war with the 10th dimension, which was what feels like the original Asgard kingdom, and the angels that Angela is part of now. And the angels came down and said, hey, look, we'll call it a truce and we'll back off and we won't completely obliterate all you people if you give us your daughter. And they kind of said like, well, hell no, get bent. And so the angels took the daughter out of the bassinet and essentially killed her in front of her parents. In the end, she's not dead, obviously, because she's Angela. But they took what they thought was dead baby with them. So that is how they're explaining the fact that Thor and Loki did not know about her. She's supposed to be Thor's twin, female twin.
Okay, that's a twist I hadn't heard.
Yeah, it's supposed to be basically his twin sister. And that is why the parents never spoke of it, because they assumed this child was lost. They also then separated the 10th dimension from all the other dimensions and left it. Nobody knew about it. It's this weird, little dot in space where the stars don't quite line up. And that's really how they're rolling it out. Okay. There'll be more detail, I'm sure, in the next installment, which is 5.2, I believe, which should be out, if I'm not mistaken, this Wednesday. Nice. So I'm watching that one carefully. It might finally give her a place in the universe, or it could just be a huge mess. I'm waiting to see how that rolls out.
Who's writing it? Do you remember?
I don't off the top of my head. But Marvel, I don't know how they pay versus the DC universe, but they have the ability to pick up better writers and hold on to them. Mm-hmm. One creative team that is cycling out that I'm really sad about is on Moon Knight. Warren Ellis was the writer for that series. I don't remember the artist off the top of my head, but he writes amazing short stories. Each issue was self-contained. Moon Knight was never in any of the bajillion crossovers that Marvel has done recently, and it was a very strong single hero title. Now the team coming in happens to be friends with the team going out, and they've already stated that they're going to maintain that same format and same feeling. So I've got my fingers crossed. I'm hoping it's going to continue to stay that well written. Okay. Same thing with Hawkeye. Matt Faction's been writing that since the get-go. So if it's in the right hands, they could really do something good with her and with that universe. Obviously, she's going to be moving into the Avengers team, so it's really going to be we'll wait and see what happens when that team's put together and how they intro that whole story arc.
I wonder if they'll find a way to bring her into the Whedonverse.
I wouldn't be surprised in the least.
Well, she's Gaiman's character.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's entirely possible. It'd be a neat twist if they find a way to tie her in.
Well, let's put it this way. Let's face it, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has blown up. Probably far beyond anybody's expectations or predictions. So it's almost given Kevin Feige, Joss Whedon, anybody at the higher-ups within the creative aspect of the universe, they gave them essentially carte blanche to do whatever they want. Within reason.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, I mean, their shackles are extremely loose.
Right.
You know, it's like, I doubt they're going to say kill Tony Stark, but
you'd never know.
I don't know when does Downey's contract expire?
Well, I think he's only contracted through Avengers 3, so
yeah, and then he's going to renegotiate and get a mint.
Yeah, more than he already has. But we've spent all this time on Marvel. We could easily spend an episode or 4.
Oh, no, wait. That gets better, though. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about earlier. The whole thing, speaking of female Thor, because, and first of all, okay, Angela, because she's Thor's twin sister, is royalty. Therefore, she's a Disney princess. There's discussion that the new Thor lady will also be royal, so she's the Disney princess.
Those character meet and greets at Disneyland are going to get a whole lot more interesting.
Yeah. I want to know where they're going to find the bodybuilder to wear the Thor armor.
So, on that same count, Loki is both a Disney princess and a Disney prince because he changes gender.
Yes. True, yeah.
Much to every fangirl's delight, I'm sure.
Just let the fanfics go nuts with that news.
You think they haven't?
I know.
And remember, Thor has been a frog before for about a week. So there was a royal Disney frog.
Well, which has happened already before with Princess and the Frog, so.
Yes.
Oh, great. Let's tie Thor into that princess. There you go. Oh, man.
Well, you know, Thor's always said his people use, to them, magic and science are one and the same, so all the voodoo magic that happened in the Deep South have him... All of a sudden you're going to see, what's the damn princess name?
I don't remember. I have actually never
Tiana.
seen that movie.
All of a sudden you see this little Tiana frog get whisked away over to Asgard.
Or you find out that the princess from Princess and the Frog was actually the daughter of the gatekeeper at Asgard.
Oh my god. Okay, we're getting way too deep into this.
Okay, let's move over to DC.
And this is where the face palming begins.
Or to Derp Control, as I now call it. Or Derp Central.
I do want to bring up one thing, though, before we get to the things I know you guys want to jump into. Mm-hmm. I did find, just looking on DC's website about what's doing for Comic-Con, they have, I don't know if it's just a one-off. It most likely will be just a one-off. But there is a comic that apparently was just released about 5 days ago.
This
and
one?
You have it. God damn it.
So are you going to talk about the scratch and sniff cover that goes with it?
What?
Well, this ain't no scratch and sniff cover.
That's not.
Wait. So before we yes, what we're talking about is Harley Quinn invades Comic-Con. Explain this. Is this a special, like, limited edition?
It's a one-off.
Okay.
It is. It's a one-off.
What's this scratch and sniff thing? Because that just, like,
It was announced, but I have not gotten my hands on a copy yet. None have come into our shop, so I think it might be the Comic-Con exclusive.
Uh-huh.
They're doing a scratch and sniff of this comic. Now, for me, it's not the first time a comic has done the Comic-Con storyline, where they've taken a character into whatever fourth dimension or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I don't know why they do this. I don't know if there's something that they've been paid or whatever the case might be. But I haven't read it.
I can
Michael
bet you
probably has.
the conversation that got this going started with, God, I got a great idea.
Well, I can
Dude,
definitely
let's put
tell
Harley
you.
in a limo with a bunch of other cosplaying Harleys.
Here's my question, though.
Man.
I have the question, though, that this scratch and sniff thing, I'm wondering, like, first off, does anybody want to really smell what Harley smells like? Because it's probably, kittens of death. But...
Well,
No.
keep in mind, she hangs out with Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy's her best friend.
good point.
That gets dangerous.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they put her in, at one point, she's in a limousine with a bunch of other cosplaying Harleys. What's really weird about it is, they talk about the artists that are in it, Connor Palmiotti and some of the greatest artists of all time.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 3 or 4 primary artists throughout this handling different phases of it.
Okay.
And at one point, oh my God, she goes into a room full of people who are dressed up as the Joker, closes the door, says, sorry, you have to use your imagination here. And when she comes out, her response is, yeah, I knew none of these were the real Mr. J, but I had to make sure. And they're all looking back like, yeah. So now they made Harley a hoe.
Please tell me that she has interactions with the other fandoms. Like, even there's this one image we have up there. There's the Doctor Who cosplayers in the background.
I think she made a comment at one point. Well, at one point, the thing that I mentioned with the limo actually happens, and they all get arrested because she takes over driving the limo and crashes it.
Awesome.
So, and ends up accidentally shooting a cop.
Accidentally.
No, it was an accident.
Okay.
It actually is quite comical in that part. But I think what happened is somebody at Comic-Con said, hey, we want you for your exclusive this year. Or somebody got stoned and said, hey, let's make a tie-in. And this is what it was. Mm-hmm. It's weak. It's extremely weak.
Okay, gotcha.
And the art is not as... There are a couple scenes where the art's pretty good, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But most of the art feels amateurish to me, honestly.
Really?
It's very borderline super deformed in one instance. In others, there are a couple others where it looks real good. There are a couple segments where it looks fantastic, but otherwise it's just
Well,
it's pandering.
Okay. Well, speaking of Harley and DC, why don't we just talk about this other thing that...
Well, there's a couple things.
Well,
which one do you want to start with? So we want to stick with Harley?
Let's go with Suicide Squad.
Oh, God. Yeah, well, they're rebooting Suicide Squad, and complete with number reset and everything, and they've radically changed the lineup. Do you have the picture of the cover?
It's coming up. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay. They've gotten rid of... King Shark is gone. The Australian guy whose name I can't remember. Boomerang's gone. The Fire Guy's gone. The Stretchy Dude's gone. And Jim Gordon's son is gone.
Really?
Suicide Squad consists of 5 people now.
Huh.
Deathstroke and Deadshot, Harley and Joker's daughter, and Black Manta. What the fuck?
Yeah, about that.
Nikki came up with a rather apropos description of what this whole series is. You want to go ahead and give us that one, Nikki?
Sure. They've actually already leaked some of the panels for it. Basically, this is catfights between Harley and Joker's daughter over who's really important to the Joker and who, it's her Joker versus I'm his daughter. This whole catfight thing going on. And then between Deathstroke and Deadshot, these are supposedly the 2 top assassins in the DC universe. So it's who has the bigger dick and the bitch fight. That's really what's going on. And then you've got poor Black Manta in the background. He's kind of like, hey guys, can we go after Aquaman now? It's really... they're pandering to the least common denominator with this particular title. It's guys with guns and boy-obsessed girls. So this really isn't going to do anybody any good. Mm-hmm. And in the last series, for the most part, Harley carried it. Harley is one of DC's biggest assets right now. But yeah, this is it. I saw this and I looked at it and I read the roster and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I grabbed the copy off the shelf. I flipped through it really quick. And sure enough, within the first issue, Harley is, trying to throttle the quote-unquote Joker's daughter, which I'm not sure how they're handling her because she's had a couple of different origin stories written so far.
Okay.
She had her own series briefly, didn't she?
No. What it
or was that just part of Villains Month?
It was during Villains Month for Forever Evil. DC's, failure. She had the one issue that was the hardest to keep in stock. We didn't even get enough for the shop. So, even the people that would have normally gotten the title that she was overriding, we didn't even have enough to fill for them.
Okay.
And then once it was all said and done, the hype was past, and we were finally able to get some additional issues in. I read it, and it was the biggest piece of crap I think I've read in a long time.
Was it more retarded than Big Force 10?
It's on there. It's up on that same crappy crap list. And it was almost like the writer didn't even know what they were doing with her. Like, they could not possibly imagine how somebody could go crazy. And, the story kept changing between she was abused versus she was spoiled versus, she did so many drugs she melted her face to she was a female activist. Like, they couldn't even figure out what they wanted to do with her, and it was a one-shot comic. So I'm like, if you only had 28 pages to tell the story of this character who everybody is dying to know more about, and you can't... why? Why did it even go to print?
Mm-hmm.
It's bundled with the Aquaman video game.
The thing is, I'm probably going to. I think I'm going to wait if it survives long enough for the first trade to come out on the new Suicide Squad before I read it. Because I like the old Suicide Squad, but I didn't like it enough that I wanted to collect every issue because it kind of got weird when they changed writing teams. And so I decided it's going to move to trade status. I'm curious about it. I like that one picture you brought up. I mean, that you had up a minute ago of the team. The artwork is good. I mean, that's one of the best drawn Harleys I've seen them throw out in a long time. I mean, Harley's been going through these weird metamorphoses of artists lately, even in her solo title. And which her solo title is comic relief, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still fun. Yeah. And what's with Walker or Waller? I mean, I'm assuming that's Waller in the middle. Yeah, I'm assuming that's Amanda Waller in the middle.
It is. This new team is no longer under her direct control. She is now being overseen as well by another division.
Oh, so she has a bomb in her neck too?
I don't believe she does. I didn't get that far in it.
Okay.
They don't reference her having one, but she's no longer running the show on her own, no questions asked, as she was before. So it remains to be seen what part she's going to play in the overall team. Speaking to Michael's talk about the art styles changing and whatnot, I hear inside information sometimes through creators and whatnot that come to visit and do signings.
Right.
DC has a really bad reputation in the industry. I haven't really heard this from anybody I've talked to from Marvel or Image, obviously not for Image, but DC wants the lowest bidder. You'll probably notice that a lot of your titles for DC, they rotate creative teams constantly. You're only getting 6-book runs before they're swapping out people, whether it's writers or artists or whatever it might be. Nightwing is a perfect example.
So Suicide Squad, or not Suicide Squad, Red Hood.
Yes, Red Hood is another good example. It can be a really jarring difference between creative teams.
Yes.
I've seen it happen in Catwoman too, and to be honest, when I came back to comics, that wasn't something I was used to. You know, I had read comics when I was younger, and I stayed with U.S. comics through the 90s. And then I switched over and I did anime and manga pretty much exclusively up until a couple years ago. And when I came back to American comics, I found these titles that I liked, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to roll with this for a while. Mm-hmm. And I would get, 5, 6 titles in, or issues in rather, and suddenly the characters look utterly retarded. And I'm like, what happened? This book had amazing art. Or, what happened to the story arc?
I was going to say, the storylines too, because like when they shifted in Red Hood and the Outlaws, Scott Lobdell was writing it for the first, I want to say, 15 issues.
Yeah.
Incredible writing, all the way through Death of the Family. Mm-hmm. Although, right about Death of the Family, or just after, spoilers, Damian died. Right after they offed Damian, Scott Lobdell's team left for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And it just went into weirdo land for a while. I mean, the artwork was okay, but not as but the story just went bizarro. And then as of 2 issues ago, Scott Lobdell's back, and the story has some depth again. Firestar is no longer just the sexy lamp, to quote Mary Sue. Or is it Mary Sue or Mary Ellen? What's her name?
Mary Sue DeCormick.
Yeah, Mary Sue. To quote her, Firestar is no longer a sexy lamp. She actually has some depth again, and it's weird. Like Nikki said, it can be incredibly jarring when that happens. That's more or less what happened with Suicide Squad, is it just went left field.
It happens. It also brings us into the next title that we have, which is the new Batgirl that they're going to be rolling out.
Oh my God!
And this is another instance of DC taking a good thing that they have going
and destroying it,
utterly taking a giant turd on it, for lack of better terms.
Hi y'all, yeah. I'm here shopping with my besties.
Yeah, doing itself. Okay, in their the thing is, even with the reboots, Barbara Gordon should be in her late 20s.
Yes, and this is where you get that jarring shift in creative teams, because it would have been one thing to take Batgirl and revamp her outfit and maybe have her move to a different part of town.
I like the outfit. Don't get me wrong. I like the outfit, but go on.
I do and I don't. There's no ear protection, and her ears are out there in the open, which for somebody with no superpowers who's doing standard grappling and martial arts and whatnot, you want some sort of ear protection. Even when you're sparring in a martial arts class, you have headgear that protects your ears.
Yeah.
In this sort of outfit, she should have cauliflower ear within a couple months. Her ears should just... Basically, what they did is the team that was writing it, for the most part, there were some jarring jumps where there were issues that were done by other teams. But Gail Simone has been the writer for Batgirl for pretty much the entire run. Mm-hmm. And Gail is amazing. She is a female writer, a very strong one that's been in the industry for a very long time. And she writes realistically. The other comic that she's currently writing from Dynamite is the Red Sonja series. Mm-hmm. And one of the stories she told when we went to WonderCon and we saw a panel with her and DeCormick was when she went back and she read Red Sonja and she read the birth of Red Sonja and her origin story. She went like, well, first of all, this is utter bullshit. You were obviously all men that have never had a child. So let me rewrite this for you. And she wrote a story of the birth of Red Sonja where it is a woman alone giving birth in the forest. She's scared. It's ugly. It's messy. It's dirty, but it was real. And it was very dramatic and serious writing, and it was good. She's also written some very highly acclaimed stories within the DC universe before the New 52 reboot. And when she took over the mantle, or the story rather, of Batgirl, at the beginning of the New 52 universe, previously, Barbara Gordon's been through a lot. But she's a woman who's already well into her 20s now. Mm-hmm. She was shot by the Joker, so she lost the use of her legs.
Which is when she became Oracle.
Oracle, yeah.
Yeah, she did her whole stint as Oracle. Now, as Oracle, she was extremely intelligent. This was the girl that basically ran the intel for the Bat family. Yeah, Bruce Wayne still had his computers, but everybody knew Oracle could help them. If they needed information, if they needed into a network, talk to Oracle. Mm-hmm. She's going to help you. Now, at the reboot of the New 52, Bruce Wayne has discovered, I believe it was overseas, a company that has pioneered medical technology that allows the implants of microchips into the brain to connect neural bridges in people who are paralyzed. So she has essentially given her legs back. Now, at this point, if that was going to be the end of Batgirl, if that was going to be the end of the seriousness and the pain and suffering that she chooses, then at this point, she would have gone on with her life. She would have taken her money, gone to the better end of town, got a rich boyfriend, did college, whatever she was going to do.
Right.
That's when it should have happened. But it didn't. She, at that point, having been through all that pain and suffering, having been Oracle, then decided to take her mantle back. She's coming back as Batgirl. And the first few issues, I would say the first 6 issues, Gale was true to form. It was not easy. She didn't suddenly go, ta-da, I have my legs, look, I can run, I can jump, I can do all this stuff. No, she talks about in her monologues, she starts with the mundane. She's chasing burglars and shoplifters, and she's exhausted. She has not used her legs in forever. And yes, she's gone to physical therapy and she's done all these things, but she's still not what she was before. She has to ramp herself up. Yeah. There's one point where she talks about, oh my God, I have to pee so bad. This was never an issue before. You know, it's like she has to learn to be Batgirl again, and she spends time doing it. Things stay dark. She moves out of her dad's house. She still has her van with the wheelchair ramp and everything else. This is not a surprise, now her life's perfect type of thing. She moves out. She moves in with a roommate, not in the best part of town. She goes with what she can afford. And, you know, it turns out that her roommate is a social activist. Sometimes she gets paid to do things that are a little on the seedy side. You know, she's living within her means in a realistic world for what she wants to do. Mm-hmm. She goes back out as Batgirl. She starts dating a boy who used to be part of a gang that she watched lose, you know, use of a leg or something like that. I don't remember exactly. Sorry. She starts dating him as Barbara Gordon. He doesn't know that she's Batgirl. So here is Barbara Gordon, the commissioner's daughter, having a relationship with somebody in her neighborhood who wouldn't necessarily be expected. So again, Barbara is making the decision to live a tougher life. And that's great. Well, crap happens. Her brother, who nobody's heard about her brother till now, so this was a whole new aspect of the story. Turns out her brother is mentally unstable. He is crazy, and he would murder people.
Kind of Dexter-like.
Exactly, and he played a big part in the death of the family. He was really the one that lured Barbara Gordon in, as well as got a hold of Barbara's mother, who most of us haven't heard of since, she left James Gordon and moved out of town and left the kids behind. The mother gets involved. She has to make the decision to kill her own brother. And Gale wrote this very serious story arc where, in the end, it didn't happen. Obviously, because we end up seeing him with Suicide Squad. But she has to cross that line. Right. To save her mother and to save her, she has to cross the line and kill her brother. Very dark story arc. We also went through Death of the Family. We went through Requiem, the aftermath of Damien's death. Mm-hmm. Her dad shoots her boyfriend. Her boyfriend's now suing her dad. And we're in the middle of the Batman Eternal series, where now her dad's in jail for a crime He did technically commit, but there are underlying factors, as always.
Of course.
And that's still being sorted out. Now, the announcement that they made, and they broke it on MTV,
Oh, Jesus.
on MTV's website,
Yeah.
TV Geek, yeah.
which tells me exactly who they're pandering to with this entire thing. Here's what's going to happen. At the end of Gail Simone's current run, which I believe is coming up in a couple months here, Barbara Gordon's apartment, it's going to catch on fire. It's going to burn to the ground. And it's at this point, we're going to ignore everything else that this girl's been through. This very strong 20-something woman. And I sent you some screenshots of what she looks like now under Gail's team. Very mature, very, very strong Batgirl. We're going to forget all this. Barbara is going to now suddenly see, you know what? Now would be a great time to cut my losses. I'm going to go ahead and move to the trendy part of Gotham, which that's news to me. I didn't know we had one. But apparently she's going to move to the trendy end of Gotham, redesign her outfit, leather jacket, snap-on cape, because that's hip. And she's going to go to grad school.
And take selfies.
Now, the selfie thing, honestly, I think that is part of the selfie variant covers that DC's doing. I believe it's this month and next.
Yeah.
So that it irked me, but not as much. But as you can see, the creative team that's taking over, I don't mind the costume redesign.
I do have
leather armor is good, but she's not going to be able to move as freely as she could in her old armor.
Yeah.
You don't do handsprings in this.
Nope.
And you certainly don't sprint for more than maybe a block before you just freaking collapse.
Right.
I don't mind that. The fact that she's suddenly 16
That's
bothers
the
me.
part that bugs me the most about this whole damn thing. Is they basically retroed her to pre-adult teenager. Even if you have a meltdown, you're not, with everything she's been through, even in the most extreme circumstances, I don't think you'd revert to a 16-year-old.
No, definitely not. And I do have to say, design aside, with the new story team run by Cameron Stewart, who worked on Batman Incorporated and Catwoman, and Brendan Fletcher, who worked on Wednesday Comics, when they come out and state that, this is one of the authors, they're describing the series as mixing the best elements of Veronica Mars, girls, with the dash of Sherlock Holmes in for good measure.
It's the Scooby team. or it's Nancy Drew in a purple leather outfit.
Yeah, pretty much. All she needs is like a little pet sidekick, and then meet some guy in an ascot.
Then it would be Scooby-Doo.
But at this point, this is the sort of stuff that DC's doing.
Yeah.
And when I came back into comics, I was super excited. I was picking up Constantine, Justice League Dark, Batgirl, Batman. Like, I was totally a DC girl. I have dropped virtually all of the DC titles off my list at this point. I think I only have 2 or 3 left, and those are hanging on by a really thin string. And a lot of it has to do with the amount of rotation they do on their creative team without concern about story consistency, or even, at this point, art consistency.
Yeah. Well, let's say you can get decent art consistency, or at least a nice gradual lead-in.
Now you're just asking for way too much.
Well, no, but I mean, no, not really, because they've got... I know you're being sarcastic, but... you've got Gail Simone's got 2 months left, 2 or 3 months left. Now they write these things 3 months out, but
not on the DC side.
Not on the DC side. I don't know. According to what Jim Lee was saying at WonderCon, but at least for Batman Eternal, they had to for Batman Eternal because they're putting them out 1 a week. But it's at least work in some transition story, or I mean, my God. Even if they did something as stupid as put her in an anti-aging machine and really made her a 16-year-old, it would be more far-fetched than anything I could possibly imagine, but it would be better than Oh, she snaps.
I mean, even if they wanted like to retcon this entire thing,
that's effective what they're doing.
There are ways to handle it, and then there's this.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But I'm sure other people have noticed this, so this really isn't, insider information or anything like that. DC is horrible about their release schedule. They're horrible about continuation on their story arcs, and getting stuff out there. They have a problem with it. Now, one of the little side stories that I was privy to deals with Nightwing and the whole death of Nightwing and Forever Evil and all that stuff, which leads us into Grayson. We're tying this in. The creative team for Nightwing had a solid run on it, and Nightwing was a really good selling title for DC. Oh, I don't know why I have that. Okay, sorry. Pop-ups. It was a really strong creative team, but the people that were writing the Forever Evil story arc were not communicating with the Nightwing team. So those stories, they weren't even connected. So, here you are. You have a team that's writing Nightwing. They're writing great. They're moving him around, doing all this other great stuff. Over in Forever Evil, he's been unmasked. The whole fucking world knows who Nightwing is. But they have no clue. They're just going, yeah, this is great. Yeah, we're doing awesome. Great sales, good book. And then all of a sudden, oh, by the way, we're killing him.
Yeah.
And what's funny is, if anybody had half a brain, and yeah, I know we're waxing nerdy arguments here, but
you're on the right show for that. So
no shit. They've outed Grayson as Nightwing. The public knows Nightwing used to be one of the Robins. Logic dictates, little background check, Grayson was adopted by Bruce Wayne. Ergo, Batman is Bruce Wayne.
Or
nobody seems to make that connection.
Well, there's that. And okay, so there's that plot hole. Even if Bruce Wayne wasn't Batman, he would know who Batman was.
Exactly.
Now, here we go. Number 2. Damian Wayne. The world was aware that Bruce Wayne had a son, Damian Wayne, who's suddenly dead. And no explanation. He's just dead and gone. Now, obviously, this month, that is in flux because nobody ever stays dead in comics forever.
Yay, Lazarus Pit!
Not exactly, actually. I've read the first one. They didn't bring him back
via the Lazarus Pit?
Not yet.
Ooh, Talia's falling down on her job as mommy.
She's dead.
Oh, I heard about that. That's right.
Yes, Talia's dead. Damian's dead. There was a shard of something in her casket. There's an interdimensional war going on because that's how DC deals with everything.
Oh, God.
And yeah, they're working on that one. But okay, so Nightwing's dead. He's gone. He's out of the picture.
Right.
So they reboot with Grayson.
Yeah.
I think the best description I've heard of this cover comes from our friend Leanne, who said the 80s called and they want their pink back. And I have to say, the person who drew this must have been on an Incredibles kick or a Pixar kick, because that head reminds me of the dad from Incredibles.
Yes, very much of how it's structured.
I didn't even notice that until she mentioned that. Like, holy crap, it is. It's Mr. Incredible.
So he's gone from being Nightwing to a former CIA counterterrorism officer.
Here's the thing, and this is where DC, I'm like, oh my God. He died. Everybody saw him die, but he didn't really die because,
nobody does.
Yeah, nobody dies. And there's all sorts of science created on the fly to resurrect dead people. So he's obviously having a change of career. He has to reinvent himself. So yes, he is a secret agent. He did nothing to alter his appearance.
Nope.
There's no plastic surgery. There's no hair bleaching. Nothing. This is him.
Just a career shift.
Just a career shift. It's like he wrote a new resume and he's remarketing himself, and everybody's just supposed to forget what happened. Now, to kick it off, he doesn't change his name. He doesn't change his appearance.
Well, they spend the whole comic referring to him as Agent 37, but...
And at the very end, they drop the formality and they're like, oh, yeah, it's Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
And everybody knows it. Not only that, but I mean, okay, how many people out there have created their own character, their own superhero, their own anime character? It's not hard. Everybody does it. I'm sure there's a drawer full of things that I've come up with on the fly. Not necessarily good, but I've done it. They didn't even bother for this one. For those that are familiar with the DC universe and before the New 52 and everything else, his partner in this.
Yes.
Yeah. They regurgitated the original identity of the Huntress.
But it's not Huntress.
It's not Huntress, but it's still Bertoli, and she is his partner. They couldn't even take the time to create a female spy agent. They just kind of like, oh, let's go dig in the dumpster out back. Here, shake this one off. It doesn't have too much crap on it. Let's throw it on the paper. So, I was just like, really? Okay, so there are so many plot holes in this. And I have to laugh because the last panel of the comic, they're obviously using Dick. There's something going on. There's a shady organization. You know how these things go.
Oh, yeah.
They have on the computer screen a picture of Batman. And it says identity, Bruce Wayne, probability like 90-something%. Picture of Superman, identity, Clark Kent, probability, blah, blah, blah %. Well, apparently somebody figured it out, and it happens to be his new employer. So, it's like, come on.
Amanda Waller's known forever, though. I'm not, hell, even in the animated series, there was a thing where she referred to Batman as Rich Boy.
Right.
So, she clearly knew everybody, but
I mean, here you go. You're led to believe that one secret organization of non-superpowered people can figure this out.
And it's not the Court of Owls.
Yeah, that's not the Court of Owls. It's Spiral. So this one group is supposed to be able to figure out what the rest of the world can't see. And it's like,
And we go from that over to, yeah.
Oh, wow, that is a crappy cover.
All I gotta say is it reminds me of a quick scene from a Simpsons episode. Hey, Chief, can I hold my gun at an angle? Yeah, sure, kid. Anything for the birthday boy. I'm like...
Because it looks cooler that way.
Come on.
That looks like a cross between... I look at that, and that looks like a really badly drawn Fist of the North Star character to me. But,
He's a rejected Sam Fisher.
Yeah. Now, there's what Nikki and I are kind of in disagreement on the new... all the plot holes and the glitches she mentions, they're there, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I will not deny them. I liked it. I read it. I enjoyed it. It's a fun ride. But don't
have no taste.
Don't expect depth. Don't expect, it's check your brain at the door. It's such a great series. It's so much fun. And this was the LSD talking. No,
it wasn't the LSD talking. I mean, there's some fun stuff, and some of the dialogue is witty and fun, but it's they obviously took a lot of shortcuts making this thing. I'm gonna give it a chance and see if it gets better. I'm not holding my breath, but it is a fun ride. I enjoyed it. I thought the action was pretty good. But yeah, no, all those plot holes, all that stuff. Hey now, there you go. Someone in the chat room suggesting almost like a live-action Archer. And that's how we get ants!
There is a live-action Archer board game, or not live-action. There is an Archer board game out now.
I saw it at the comic shop. I was
so
curious.
I'll be buying one when I show up next time. Okay. Okay. Well, with all of
we're
this,
running way long, but that's okay. We're having fun.
That's perfectly fine. I mean, anything else in the DC universe that we really want to touch on?
I'm curious as to what's going on, and you put it in here on number 24.
Mm-hmm.
The Injustice storyline.
Yes.
For those of you who haven't read it, Injustice, if you start thinking, oh, well, that must be a tie into the video game, you're right, it is. The Injustice Gods Among Us video game, which is basically Mortal Kombat DC Edition, version 2.0, because the first Mortal Kombat DC sucked ass. But Injustice, the story is actually really good. It's kind of slightly spoilerific. Basically, in an alternate universe, Joker sets off a nuke in Metropolis and kills Lois Lane. Less than a week after Soups finds out that Lois is carrying his kid.
Mm-hmm.
So not only does Joker kill Lois Lane, he kills Superman's unborn son. Soup snaps and kills Joker.
Yeah, like no hesitation.
Puts his hand through his chest, heart beating, a la Temple of Doom, you know. And at that point, he snaps. And Superman basically says, you know, you idiots can't take care of yourself. So it becomes a dictatorship, you know, one world under Superman.
Mm-hmm.
It goes from there. The story evolves.
Yeah.
Injustice. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say year one essentially focuses on the split between, or the split partnership between Batman and Superman.
Right.
How they separate and whatnot.
How their friendship separates.
Year two, you get this whole chronicle of a war between Superman's forces and the Green Lantern Corps.
Right.
That gets kind of crazy.
At some point, Green Lantern decides to back Soups, though, because in the game they're on the same side.
Right.
And then now for year three, you know, Superman is impervious to everything but one thing. The one thing Superman is not impervious to is magic. So what are they doing for year three of Injustice? Putting him up against Constantine.
Yes.
Hell freaking yes.
Batman and Constantine versus Superman. I am all for this.
Unfortunately, we know how it's going to end because unless they're deciding to deviate from the video game,
which I think they are. Yeah.
But still, I'm looking forward to reading this. I really am.
Yeah, I can.
What do you think, Nick? Because I know you like Constantine.
I don't know. Injustice wasn't really my thing.
Uh-huh.
I know it was very well written, but the whole alternate universe thing has kind of been overdone for me.
Okay.
Constantine is one of those characters I haven't decided about yet. And the reason I say that is because his Vertigo run, very strong, painted a very specific type of character.
Mm-hmm.
What DC is doing with him is really all over the map. It's one of those titles I started with that most likely will get dropped.
Yeah, because they keep shifting the teams on it.
Well, yeah, and that was the thing, is the first few issues until the Forever Evil launched, there was his own story. It was him. You didn't have to worry about other team members or anything like that.
Right.
And he's trying to track down all these artifacts and whatnot.
Exactly, and
it was a great storyline.
Yeah, he's dealing with the cult of the Cold Flame, if I'm not mistaken. And then for the next 6 months, really, it was just you didn't understand what was going on in half the issues because they were all tie-ins to several other issues.
So unless you had access and a very large bank account and have all of these, you really didn't have much of an idea of what was going on.
Well, and that's kind of the problems when you get with a universe-wide storyline. I mean, there was a similar thing that happened, and even to this day, with Marvel Civil War, the tie-ins left, right, and center. I've still yet to find a concrete. Okay, here's the Marvel Civil War, all the tie-ins, all the stories, so that it's one contiguous storyline that makes sense. They haven't put it out yet. Because it's spread across every title Marvel had.
Mm-hmm.
Superhero, mutant, you name it, it was everywhere. Crisis on Infinite Earths back in the 80s when DC decided they were oh my God, we've got too many damn alternate universes, we need to condense them down to one or two. Only to come around 20 years later and do this. You know? It's unless you've got a really deep pockets, you can't follow the storyline. Because it's all over them. And it's not little loose tie-ins. Like for Death of the Family, a lot of the tie-ins were kind of loose. You could skip them, and you'll at least hear what happened. Like what happened to Jason Todd, Red Hood. If you didn't read Red Hood and the Outlaws, they still talked about it in the other Bat titles, so you knew that Jason Todd's face got pretty fucked up. And They weren't doing that with Forever Evil. They were spreading it all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
It was its own title, and there's still some lingering ones out there. And then there was Forever Evil Arkham War, and then there was the Forever Evil tie-ins to each individual issue of the comics involved. And it spiraled out of control. Honestly, I think they haven't done it because it would be a really intimidating book. And they did it for the AVX leading into the Marvel reboot.
Mm-hmm.
And that book is, it's near or over $100, and it's huge. It's like a Webster's dictionary.
Yeah, you're talking about the one that's like about that thick?
Yeah. It's a gigantic book. And honestly, that's what's turning a lot of people away from the big two. Marvel's reined it in a little bit. They did the whole Age of Ultron. They kept it short and sweet. It's not too big.
And they kept it tied to only 2 or 3 titles, right? I mean, spread.
Yeah, approximately. And they did the new Infinity series, and that was a little chunky, but it wasn't too bad. But now they're doing it within genres, per se. So there's always been a little bit of a disconnect between the mutants and the rest of the Marvel universe. They do cross over, they're mentioned in each other's books, but they don't really have a huge interaction.
Thanks, Fox! Oh.
But not for those reasons. So you have, there was the whole battle for the Atom and the trial of Jean Grey that happened in the mutant titles that you really didn't hear too much about, say, on the Avengers side of things. So Marvel, while they are tie-in happy, it's not as insane as it is on the DC side. And I'm sorry to say that DC's going to be doing it again. They're launching in the next few months another, universe-wide, no stone left unturned story arc that's going to go for a couple months again. And honestly, I don't have the time, nor the energy, nor the disposition to keep dumping money in there. Despite the fact that I work for a comic shop, I don't need to know that much about my job. I don't need to read every single damn title, because I just don't have that kind of sanity.
Right.
So that's the thing, is, the Constantine, there was stuff going on with the Crime Syndicate, which was the main bad guys from the Forever Evil story arc, but you never really knew what it was unless you were also reading the Trinity of Sin, which wouldn't really make much sense unless you read the Pandora's Box story arc that led into it, that dealt with Phantom Stranger, and it just got obscene.
It snowballed.
It
fast.
did. So I'm aware that at some point they gathered up all the magic users in the world and they shoved them in a giant, it turned out to be essentially generator to keep portals open and all this other stuff. And he was in there trying to help people and get them out, but at the same time he was serving his own needs. The way they handle Constantine is a character that sort of wants to be good, but at the same time is out for nobody but himself. Yet he supposedly loves Zatanna so much, and he would do anything for her, yet he constantly works against her, and he gets kicked out of the Justice League Dark. The house that they're in no longer accepts him as the rightful owner of the house. And there's just, I almost can't like him now as a character. But when you're reading the Vertigo story arc, this is a guy that's genuinely trying to do good, and he's got a bad rap. He's one of the early anti-heroes, as it were, but he's honestly trying. There's none of this, like, I'm going to trick this person into helping me, and it's really self-serving.
I'm not going to steal Billy Batson's powers and become Shazam for an issue.
Exactly. And when he does, for lack of a better term, trick somebody, he feels miserable about it. A lot of people have died because of him, and he feels miserable about it. There are places he cannot go back to because the memories of what have happened, it haunts him. He has trouble sleeping, things like that. The New 52, they don't portray him that way. They took that level of character out of him.
He's much more sociopathic in the New 52.
He is. He is completely sociopathic. And everybody hates him, and I don't like what they've done.
Gotcha.
Now the good news is the TV series that they're doing, they're going back to the Vertigo version of him.
Yeah, they're basing it more on the Hellblazer line.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So, and that also means we don't have to deal with, dude, I know magic. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah.
It's not Bill S. Preston Constantine.
All right. Well, I know we've been going for a while now, and it's almost an hour and a half at this point and whatnot. So I do want to wrap this up because I know we can continue this on in future, episodes later on down the line. I do want to, instead of doing our usual what we're watching bit,
All
I
right,
do
'cause I
want
actually have stuff this week.
Oh, you do? Okay. Do you want to do with that instead of the usual the Kotobukiya sculpts or?
Where is Michael's next paycheck going? No, or Nikki's next paycheck, as the case may be. We can talk about the sculpts, but if you wanted, as to what we're watching, I actually have some stuff that I've been watching. So
Go for it.
But it's up to you.
Go for it.
I finally this weekend I watched the first couple episodes of Rail Wars.
Nice.
It's not what I expected. It's good. I'm enjoying it. But it's not what I expected. And I've started watching the new Sword Art Online series.
Good, very good.
Yeah. Have you seen the Ep 3 that posted the other night?
Ep 3, no. I've seen episode 1 and 2.
Okay. Ep 3 goes into Shinon's background.
Okay.
And her specifically her real life background.
Okay.
It's interesting. It's kind of a little, well, of course, dumb fuck, that's not going to work type in it when you watch it, but it's good. It's I'm enjoying it. I won't go so far as yet anyway to say I'm not going to say it's better than season 1. It's not better than season 2. But it's starting to establish itself. What I think they're doing, and I'm this week will tell me if I'm right. It's like they're doing exposition, action, exposition, and if the next one's action, that's the pattern they're following. Because the first episode, if you remember, was all exposition.
Right.
They introduced Death Gun, set up the big spooky, and then episode 2 they introduced Shinon, who's badass. And then Ep 3 they go into Shinon's background. Although there was a I won't say cliffhanger, Easter egg teaser thing at the very end of episode 3 that Nikki and I were debating if we're right or not, and time will tell.
Okay.
But if we're right, that's pretty fucked up. Even for Japanese anime, it's pretty fucked up.
All right, fair enough.
Other than that, those two have been watching a lot. The new Defiance has taken some weird turns.
I like it for what it's doing.
My God. Oh my God. Daytak's wife.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yes.
See, I knew. I'm not at all surprised she's doing what she's doing because they hinted at it heavily in the first one, and I like that actress anyway. I mean, it's the same actress that played H.G. Wells in Warehouse 13.
Okay.
She's a great actress. And the level of don't F with this woman is pretty incredible. I don't know what the hell's going on with Arissa.
Right.
It's just, what the fuck? Other than that, there's not really a lot I've been watching. I've really, actually, what surprised me, I've gotten into the Will Wheaton project.
Yeah, you were saying that,
It's actually freaking funny.
He has some actually really good writers.
It's great. His team's good. I was expecting to hate it, but I'm liking it a lot.
Good times.
And since you're on the panel today, Nikki, what have you been watching besides the anime that I mentioned because we were watching it together?
Well, I stayed awake through the first 3 episodes of Sword Art Online.
Okay.
And I have to preface this not to clarify for those that don't know me very well. It has nothing to do with the fact that it's boring or anything like that. It's good. I do agree that I would like it to move a little faster. It just so happens that I do so much in my day, and I have such a short attention span sometimes that a lot of times when I sit down on the couch, I will fall asleep within 30 minutes. So when I say I stayed awake for something, that is a good thing. That means I was enjoying it. So I stayed awake for the first 3 episodes. I do have to say that this was one of the first, I can't really overlook it, stupid writer moments in episode 3 when they explain her background and her reasoning for playing this game.
Okay.
We can discuss it next time, but
Okay.
I listened to the explanation, and even for the fact that it's coming out of the girl, I'm like, you have got to be shitting me. That's not even logical. That is the stupidest damn thing I've ever heard. No. That doesn't even, they don't cross at any point. It's like, it's one of those, it almost plays into that whole violent video games make for violent kids thing, that they can't tell the difference between reality and a video game.
Gotcha.
This is that. This is the...
It's the reverse of that.
Yeah, she's making that argument that if I can do this here, I can handle this here. And it's like, no, not at all.
Huh.
Not even close.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so I do need to catch up on my anime, though. I also have a lot of knitting to do, so those may be coinciding shortly. Michael has gotten me to sit through the Will Wheaton project, which is okay. I'm okay with that. I actually like more is At Midnight. That holds my attention
I'm really enjoying
span.
At Midnight.
That show is
Exactly.
awesome.
That is the right size. It's quick, fast little snippets for me, and I can usually stay awake through a couple episodes.
Nice. Very nice.
I'll be honest, I don't get in front of the TV very often, and by the end of my work shift, if I'm not raiding with the guild for any reason, I get up and I leave the room, and I go for a walk or I do something else, make dinner, things like that. So I don't really have too much on that front.
I mean, you're sitting down in front of a screen, and multiple screens for 8 hours plus a day, so you kind of want to get up and get around for every once in a while.
Definitely.
Yeah, because with me, like, I have, like everyone else, I have work, and so my watching time is much smaller than I usually do. I did catch up on some anime, I'm watching Sword Art Online. Akame ga Kill is pretty good. I am watching the new Sailor Moon just to see where it's going to go. The only problem with it is the fact that, yes, it is 26 episodes for this first season, but it's every other week that an episode is being released. So it's one of those...
Really?
For me to even get any indication of where the story's going to go, I'm going to have to wait literally 2 or 3 months to even get anything beyond that. They've only been 2 episodes so far. You saw Sailor Moon, watched episode 2 today, and they introduced Sailor Mercury. And I'm going to have to wait another 2 weeks for Mars, and then beyond that, Jupiter, and... It's going to take 2.5 months to get through the introductions.
Are they following the manga this time? Because I heard that supposedly they were supposed to be following the manga more on this one.
There are some aspects to it that are closer tied to the manga than before, but it's still that art style is just a little off-putting. Although I do have to say, though, Viz has been putting out clips of the new English dub. Not for Crystal, though, but for the original series. Like, hey, look, for AX, they bring back the original cast. And then while they're on stage saying, okay, since we're releasing all 500 episodes, the specials, the movies and whatnot, uncut, we can't use the original dub. So here's the new dub. And I'm like, that was kind of a smack in the face to the voice actresses.
That's a dick move.
Yeah.
That Char did that?
Yeah. Well, it's also the thing,
so not Char.
There's a clip of Luna, the cat. The English dub. In the new version, it's voiced by Michelle Ruff. The thing is, though, the little bits and pieces of Sailor Moon I watched before, Luna was always the voice of this old English woman, berating.
Yeah, like McGonagall.
Yeah. No,
she's
now
like
it's
McGonagall before there was McGonagall.
Now it's some preppy teenager voice.
Oh God.
Yeah, I'm just like,
I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
They, I want to say it was Kotaku or IO9, one of them. Gave a 30-second clip of Usagi coming out of, I think it was the arcade, and she crumples up a test she failed and chucks it, and that's where, Tuxedo Mask was.
Comment,
and, makes some comments.
Right.
That was the most nails on chalkboard thing I've heard in a while, and I was just like, no. This is why we can't have dubs. This is why it must be subbed. It's not that we can't have nice things, we just can't have dubs.
This is why we can't have nice dubs. If it's not Ocean Group, we can't have nice dubs.
And, it was mentioned, somebody made the comparison that, it sounds like the English version of the same Japanese voice actress. And I'm like, no. That was just the most retarded thing I've heard in quite some time. But it's no secret, I've never been a fan of dubs. I think it does lose something in the art form when you watch it, in English versus its native language. But I feel that way about a lot of things. I mean, just think about all the times that you see they'll release a trailer or a clip of a U.S. movie in another language. And you hear that disconnect, and you're like, well, this obviously doesn't come from this country.
Right, exactly.
It really takes away from that for me. And I was introduced to anime through dubs, or not dubs, through subtitles. And that's my preference. But I have to say, I was willing to give it a listen, because if I could ever get over that hurdle, obviously my Japanese isn't that fluent, but if I could ever get over that hurdle of getting an acceptable voice acting crew to where I could watch anime and not have to read it, I think I would get through a lot more. Not because I'm a slow reader or anything like that, but because I could multitask.
Exactly, yes.
And everything I do has to be multitaskable. If I can knock out 3 episodes of whatever while I'm cooking dinner and cleaning the kitchen, great. I would have so much more anime done.
Or doing 4 bands on a scarf, or
whatever the case might be.
There's always a ton of stuff there. But no, you make very valid points. And there are times where I'll literally just toss something on Netflix just to have background noise when I'm working on something. And next thing you know, I've gone through 2 or 3 episodes.
Exactly.
But with anime, I have to sit there and actually watch it, because I like you, my Japanese is nowhere near the point where I can just look away and still know what's going on.
Exactly. And I actually had somebody ask me outside of the chat room, I am not fluent. In a perfect world, I am exactly 3 or 4 classes of Japanese away from my 4-year degree, but I am not fluent. That's something that I think would take a very long time and immersion in the culture that I don't currently have access to.
No, that's understandable.
Yeah.
And I'm way years behind you, so... All right, and on that note, I think it's about a good place to end it.
We'll talk about the figures next week.
Yeah, we'll talk about the figures next week. We'll have a wrap-up of Comic-Con next week's episode. So, Nikki, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a long time, and you're always welcome back. Thank
you.
And Michael, you're here. So.
Yeah. We used to do. I'm not going to put Nikki on the spot saying that it's going to happen, but we've talked about originally way back in the day we wanted to do a regular thing with Nikki, where she'd come on and talk about comics because she's our comic guru. And I think we should try and work more and make that happen.
We'll see what happens. Real life comes first, as we always say.
With Kotobukiya figures.
There you go.
Yeah. I do have to say, I spend what I don't spend of my paycheck in the shop, from the shop, I spend on the figures through the shop. So, yeah.
Speaking of which, show the latest one you got, because I know you have it on your table with you.
Yes. Spider-Woman is out, for those who are interested.
Nice.
It's a good sculpt. It's a really good
sculpt. It looks like a really good sculpt.
Now, this one, much like, yeah, dead ass. Much like Harley Quinn, she actually has a container in the bottom here because she comes with her, let me get on my finger here so you can see it, her actual mask.
Nice, okay.
And it's one of the most complex swap outs they've done yet, because in order to do it, let's see if I'll turn it around here. You have to remove her entire head. There we go.
Decapitation. No.
Yeah, pretty much. You then have to, I don't know if you guys can see really well, pull off her bangs.
Now she's looking like a teenage Medusa.
I'm having flashbacks to Westworld right now.
Slap that back on and
Put the head back on the body.
put the head back on the body to come up with the other one.
Well, that.
Now I have to
Go
say,
ahead.
it's a beautiful figure. Let me get it over here. I do love it, but I have to say, all it's missing is a stripper pole.
Yeah, pretty much.
The way they designed this one, I looked at it and I'm like, did they reference a stripper on this one? Because it very much looks that way.
I was flashing back to the Cinemax softcore Spider Babe. So
Oh dear God.
Wow. Yeah.
But I know they are coming out with a Starfire in the next few months, and they gave her a badonkadonk too. So
Yes.
she's gonna have back, as it were.
she has quite the badonkadonk.
We'll
Yes.
probably have some. There'll probably be a prototype or prototype sculpt or something like that at Comic-Con. So.
Oh yeah, it's actually already out, and you can see it on the net.
Oh, nice. Okay.
They do have it out. I really want them to. Yes, it turned into a horror film. I really want them to reprint the Wonder Woman from a couple years ago. She has the best resting bitch face I've seen yet. And I'm not a huge Wonder Woman fan, but I want her for that one reason. The one that's out right now, the armored one, is really cutesy, and that's great. I'm not going to get that one, even though I'm kind of collecting them all at this point. But if they ever re-release that one, I want it. That resting bitch face, it is amazing.
Nice. Oh wait, I think I may have found it. Let me throw it in here real quick. The
Wonder Woman or the badonkadonk?
No, Wonder Woman. You're talking about this one?
She should have spears behind her. Yes.
That's
Yeah.
that is a great sculpt.
Yes. I wonder about the divot in the belt. That seems a little awkward. But if you can find a better picture of the face, it is an amazing resting bitch face.
Yeah, I can see that.
That is a total really? You're coming after me? Really? Face.
Oh, the things we can talk about and find on the internet.
Indeed.
All right, and with that, thank you guys so much for hanging out. Again, Nikki, thank you very much. We will be back next week for a wrap-up of Comic-Con. For those of you who are going to Comic-Con, have fun. I hate you, but we'll see what happens. Those of you who are not, stay next week. We'll have a wrap-up for you. So, yeah. For Mother's Basement and Nikki, I'm Jason.
And I am Michael.
We'll see you guys next week. Take it easy, everybody. Have a great week.